Honorable Minister for Infrastructure in Alberta, Mr. Pravasi Bharatiya. Please.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Satish ji and Ritesh and everyone at CAF for bringing us all together to celebrate Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, especially during India's 75th independence celebrations. So I was actually honored to know Rajmohan Gandhi ji, who was visiting our city 3-4 years ago. I had dinner with him and learned a little bit more about Gandhi ji and the freedom movement and all. But today, you know, it's about celebrating Indo-Canadian diaspora and how do we deepen and strengthen the relationships between the two great democracies, Commonwealth partners. I know our diplomats, Ajay ji and his team are doing an outstanding job from their part. But as elected officials and as a diaspora, I think we should play our part. Because mainstream Canadians doesn't know Bharat, they know India, they heard of India, they only scratched on the surface. But unless they know the real India with so many states, many Bharats in Bharat and different cultures, they won't really have any appreciation. So as Indo-Canadians, it's our job to celebrate entire India and introduce that to mainstream Canadians. And also, we are obligated to contribute to Canada. We call Canada the home, but we also had to champion the democracy here because you know the true democracy works in Canada. People like me can run for public office and get elected. So we are obligated to represent our constituents, mainly in the people that elected us here, while not ignoring our roots and celebrating our Indian culture and deepen those relationships. In Alberta, I want to thank all Indo-Canadians for their contributions to make Alberta a better place for us presently and also for our future generations. Yadvir, you mentioned, you know, one day we'll see a Indo-Canadian leading, you know, as a prime minister or president of US. It's not the numbers; it's the what impact those people made, because these positions and this power is temporary. Our legacy should focus on what impact we made to actually improve the lives of both Canadians and Indians. That's how I strongly feel about it, because the politicians shouldn't get tempted to play based on the local popular sentiments or politics, because I, for one, stood up, you know, when people want to block Triranga Yatras or things like that. It's not in the interest of either Canada or India. We know what happened when Prime Minister went there, so we should not be tempted on those short-term politics. We had to look at long-term relationships. That's what, from Government of Alberta, we're trying to deepen and strengthen those relationships. I know federal government has a larger jurisdiction. I'm sure Chandraji would cover that. You know, Canada is an export economy. We are dependent on foreign markets. India has 1.4 billion people. So whatever they consume, I mean, whatever they produce, they can consume because they have the local market. But as Canada, we have a small population base, so we had to find markets. And given the geopolitical situation in Indo-Pacific area, it's all the more important now to focus on that relationship, and our elected officials, both at province and federal level, they had to take intentional and deliberate actions to move forward this. We keep talking. People have been talking before my time, but we'll continue to talk, but it's time for action to actually enhance those relations and, in fact, find practical solutions. It's not going to be easy to do business with India. As I said, there are many Indias, different cultures, so mainstream Canadians doesn't know. So we as Indo-Canadians had to find ways to facilitate that and make things happen, which on my part, I commit to Albertans and Canadians. I've been playing that specific to Alberta. You know, we know that we had to create wealth if we want to distribute wealth to Canadians and Albertans. So Alberta has been the economic engine of Canada, but we had to find our infrastructure to export to markets like India, because with my federal counterpart, Catherine McKenna, when she was infrastructure minister, I kept telling her, you know, in India, if Prime Minister Trudeau's priority is to help reduce global emissions, we can supply our LNG to India, then they can take off their reliance on coal-fired energy, or even to help Indians to have access to clean cooking fuel, for example. So those are the things we need to do. Today, we are only supplying Canadian energy to US at a discounted price. That's a shame. So we should build that economic infrastructure corridors, and that will help all of Canada, not just Alberta. And and Alberta also is very strong in agricultural and forestry products we can export. We are focusing on tourism. Our recovery plan is working. We invested more than $10 billion in 2020 on infrastructure. And this year and last year, for the next 3 years, we are spending $20 more billion on infrastructure. And our post-secondary institutions are top-notch, and University of Alberta and University of Calgary. We have opportunities for Indian students to come and excel here. But as someone said before, we need to collaborate along with other provinces and act as Team Canada. And I hope Indo-Canadians play their part in advancing this. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prasad Pandya. I couldn't agree more. You've highlighted very good points. You're talking about the legacy. I think you're right. The legacy has already been established. Our culture is one of the most ancient cultures, the Indus Valley civilization, along with other Greek, Roman, and Mesopotamian cultures. You're talking about Mahatma Gandhi, and you're right. It's just a scratch on the surface. We do not take pride in as much as we should be in our legacy, in our culture, in our heritage. Mahatma Gandhi, I think the world has taken inspiration from him. Today, we need his lectures of non-violence more than ever. How could this common man influence the masses in India and liberate a country without even picking up any weapon? I think that's the legacy he's left for us, but we shy away. We do not talk about that. We do not take as much pride at as we should be doing. Look at how South Africa, Nelson Mandela, he got inspired. Martin Luther King got inspired. Obama, when he was asked, would you like to have dinner with anybody living or dead or alive, he mentioned Mahatma Gandhi. And here we are today. I mean, so anyways, we'll talk more about that as we move further. Moving quickly on to MP Aryaji, would like to listen your opening remarks as well. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dveer. As I mentioned earlier, once again, thanks to Satish, Ritesh, and the CIF for organizing this and for this very important topic, the role of diaspora. You know, the contributions of Indo-Canadians to our country is very well known. Indo-Canadians have contributed greatly to the socio-economic, cultural development of this country. But what is not well known amongst the mainstream is the importance of the strategic relations between Canada and India. That I think as Indo-Canadians, that is one of our job, our duties to educate Canadians on the importance of India. Maybe Bharat, as Pandeyji said, the cultural aspect of India is very well known. The North Indian cuisine is very well known. But the importance of the political relationship is not very well known yet. Let me explain the role of the diaspora in deepening the relationship between Canada and India. Let me take the example of Ukraine. Many Canadians don't know that the relationship between Canada, Ukraine, and Russia is wholly influenced by the power of the Ukrainian diaspora in Canada. Forget the current turmoil between Russia, Ukraine, Europe, etc. Step back to last 5, 10, 15 years. The policies of all major political parties in Canada towards Russia and Ukraine is basically proposed or influenced by the Ukrainian diaspora in Canada. So that is the kind of role a diaspora can play. But most Canadians don't know how powerful the Ukrainian diaspora is. Let me take another example, which probably most of us know. The Tamil diaspora here, the Tamils, let's forget the Tamils from India for a moment. Let's see the Tamils from Sri Lanka in Canada. The policies of all major political parties are entirely influenced by the Tamil diaspora here, by the very active engagement of the Tamil diaspora in the political process of all levels, city level, municipal level, or the provincial level, or the federal level. So, I mean, I'm just taking these two are the examples of what role diasporas can have in relation to in improving, strengthening relationship between the two countries. In Sri Lanka, it's the opposite. The Tamil diaspora has influenced the policies where our relationship with the current government in Sri Lanka is not so good. Now, coming to India and Canada, let us be very frank here. The relationships are not great as it should be, as the potential it has. The trade is improving, good, but certainly not to anywhere near the potential what Canada, India has. The trade is improving despite not so great relationship between Canada and India at this moment. I've been in politics just for 6-7 years. I saw the frozen relationship for quite some time. I thought there was a thaw in the relationship when Indian Foreign Minister Jaishankar came to India in 2019. I met him, but it has gone back. So why this thing can't be changed? It is possible to change it, and the role of diaspora is very important in doing it. You know, Indo-Canadians, we are good in number. We have got great strength in numerical in terms of the number of people living in Canada. You know, Indo-Canadians are good in academics, in business, in professionals, in political level, everywhere we have. But what we don't have is a common approach that can focus on a relationship between India and Canada. There cannot be two other great countries, Canada and India, which have got so many natural similarities, not just in terms of democracy, not just in terms of the rule of law, but also Indian position there in South Asia is of very strategic importance to Canada. We are developing the Indo-Pacific strategy for our global relations. Hopefully, we will revisit and emphasize and deepen the strength between Canada and India going forward. You know, students, two countries, China and India, have been biggest source of our international students. We need these good, bright students from these countries. India is #1 in providing us one of the best brains. And we need that for Canada because it's our requirement. And more people coming from India will only further enhance our strength here in Canada, will also enhance the potential between Canada and India. I will stop here, and I'm sure all these things we all, Pandeyji talked about, what Neenaji talked about, will all come up during the Q&A. Let's address each of them much in depth. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I think one of the things that we're all agreeing to is let's walk the talk. We've been doing the talk in terms of trade, in terms of building the cultural ties. And as Araj, you've mentioned that, yes, there's a lot more potential. But just for our viewers' benefit, I'd like to tell you that, yes, the trade talks between India and Canada has been going on for quite some time. Yes, it all started during the Harper era, but it did stall about 4 years ago. Now I think the discussion has started again. We did cover, when our foreign affairs minister met her Indian counterpart, and I think the discussions are on now. And we know our trade minister, Mary Angie, she did have a discussion with the Indian trade minister, Piyush Goyal, and we are hopeful that, yes, things will start getting better. India has set its eyes on doing some free trade agreements. I think Britain is almost on the verge with UAE, and with Canada is definitely there on the list as well. But let's walk the talk. So coming to you, Neena Tangri, I know Ontario has sent some trade delegations to India, but what role as somebody, as a minister from Indian origin, as a diaspora, you think we can play in getting India and Canada's trade and cultural ties even stronger?
Oh, great question, Yudviji. I think it's just so important that we first understand that our trade and investment with India, with Ontario, and across Canada as a whole, it's so minimal. And when we think about India and what it has to offer and what the trade that we can do, the people that we can bring in here, the people we can send to India, for example, federally in Ontario as well, on the infrastructure side of things, we actually provide a lot of infrastructure to India, and the knowledge and a lot of the roads and the technology that's being used in India actually comes right from Canada. So we are doing a lot, but it's we're so minimal in what we could be doing. And I think there's so much more that our federal government and all of us at the provincial levels that we can do collectively, if we were in collaboration, that we can collectively do to enhance the trade, enhance what we have to offer here in Canada to India. I'll give an example, something that we're doing here. They're called the small modular reactors. Now, we already know that our CANDU reactors are in India. And it's technology from decades ago that we sent to India that they're using in their power plants. But these small modular reactors, instead of having a very large nuclear power plant built, they're much smaller. So think about the size of an ice rink. So take the size of that. You can build that small modular reactor in remote parts of India where they can actually use it to get power 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to those villages or to those towns and cities where there's always been issues for so long, and to make sure that they have access to power. It's something that it takes a while to build, so it's not an overnight thing. But so we've already got deals with some countries in Europe that are willing to invest in this technology, and it's Ontario and Canadian technology, and we should be very proud of that. But it's also useful globally. Now, there are don't get me wrong, there are many other jurisdictions that have their own versions of this, but we already know that we have the critical minerals here, such as uranium, and we have a huge critical mineral strategy that we're putting together to mine those minerals right here, to have all of this available, and in the electric vehicle world. So think of an electric vehicle battery. We are going to be one of the leading jurisdictions here in Ontario and Canada, where we're going to take it right from mining those critical minerals, building that battery, putting it together, putting it in the vehicles, and exporting it to the whole world. So this is something where I think India and Canada can work together and use our technology, use areas like artificial intelligence, where we can really spend a lot of time collaborating with both jurisdictions to do more, where we can invest in the trade front and do so much more. And I know you can hear the passion in my voice, where I'm really excited about some of the areas that we're already working on, and so much more that we can do. And, and Minister Panda spoke earlier about the infrastructure and things that we're doing in Alberta, and similarly here in Ontario and across Canada, that we can really support India, and collectively we can bring from India, that we can do more together. So I think it's a blank canvas right now. We're doing so little, and I blame I can put a lot of blame in our current and previous government, so I'm not going to be partisan about this, but where we could have done so much more. And I think it's an area we should really, really put as a top priority. Now we're looking at other jurisdictions where we depend so much on trade with China. But due to a lot of recent areas, we've seen how much we cannot depend on just one jurisdiction. We need to be able to diversify. And I think India has that unique opportunity for us to really work together with them, where they can fill a lot of the gaps. And we should be doing a lot more trade, a lot more investment together with India. And I think it's beneficial to our economies and to the people in general. So there's so much more that we can do.
I couldn't agree more, Minister Neenaji. And you said you're passionate. Yes, we need that sort of passion. Actually, we need more passionate people like you. Recently, I was interviewing our Prime Minister Trudeau, and one of the discussions that points that you just made about China. So I asked him a very specific question, our Prime Minister Trudeau, that when are we going to ask some tough questions to China? That did this virus origin from your country? Where did it originate from? And you're right, we cannot really depend that much on China now. And I think the mandate is very clear. The year-end interviews that our Prime Minister Trudeau did, he's clearly said this, that a very strong Indo-Pacific policy needs to be initiated. He's given this mandate to his cabinet ministers. But here we are, the Indian diaspora, the elected representatives from the Indian origin. Minister Panda, I'd like to ask your viewpoint that are we doing enough? Is there should be more discussion how Canada can be working more with India, and there are a lot more opportunities instead of China. And I think our allies, the US, Israel, Australia, New Zealand, Britain, they're all aligning too well with India right now. Minister Panda.
Yeah, absolutely. The sky is the limit when it comes to the opportunities. Neenaji talked about some of the opportunities. In fact, in her role as Minister of Red Tape Reduction, that's an important thing on both sides, not only from Canada, but also from Indian side, because it's very complex doing business with India. Each state, they have their own complexities. So we had to break through that. Should we be doing more? Yes. Is there an opportunity? For sure. So if Prime Minister gave the mandate letters to his ministers, that's great. But it's one thing is on the paper. It's other thing in practice. Because if India wants to increase their GDP to $5 to $7 trillion in the coming years, I think Canada should be there to take part of it, and even to get a small pie of that. Canada's economy has to recover. Otherwise, I don't know how we pay back the debt we have taken. In the last 1 year, I think our debt, Canada's debt, is more than $1.5 trillion. So, which means we had to recover our economy. Alberta is on the path. I think this coming years we'll have 7% recovery in our economy. And our concern, like Neenaji mentioned, is about skilled workforce. That's why we are trying to do our labor reforms and trying to find the Indo-Canadian students in our universities to stay back, because they are trained here. We want to retain them and provide them an opportunity for or the path for permanent residency and citizenship. Those skilled trades play a very important role in Alberta and Canada's recovery. So we are also looking at accreditation to make their foreign credentials recognized here, so they can work to their full potential. Because most of the time, these new Canadians, they had to work at lower jobs below their qualifications and competency levels. So we're trying to bring them up to their full potential. So specific to improving those trade opportunities, there is a lot in new economies because we're trying to diversify. We're building on our strengths. Our strength is natural resources. Prime Minister Modi said Canada could be an energy superpower, but and India could, I mean, I always say Alberta and Canada can feed and fuel India. We can provide them food and energy security by collaborating across all the provinces in Canada. Each one has their own strengths. In prairies, we have potassium, and fertilizers can be made with that, uranium. Neenaji talked about clean energy, which is actually small modular reactors, which Alberta signed the deal together with Ontario and New Brunswick. We're looking out for opportunities as Team Canada. Believe it or not, as an Albertan, it was hard for me to promote a company in Quebec, but recently there is an Indian company reached out to me looking for some transmission, transmission loss prevention technology. And through Minister Francois Champagne, I identified a company in Quebec and actually connected them with our Indian partners. So as a Team Canada approach, we all have our own strengths and focus areas. So we should collaborate and deepen those relationships, because time is of the essence. These federal government policies had to facilitate. The biggest thing we can do is to get out of the way of entrepreneurs. I mean, these kind of increased trade happens when entrepreneurs take the lead. Our job as elected officials is to facilitate that.
Great point. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Minister. Moving on to MP Aryaji, earlier you alluded to a point that yes, how strong the Ukrainian diaspora has been, and I think I see that in Canadian policies. You're right. My recent interview with our Defense Minister Anita Anandji, we were discussing, as you were mentioning earlier, there could be some issues at the Russia-Ukraine border, and here we are. The Canadian policy was clear and strong that yes, we are sending our troops for training role. And our Minister Anita Anandji, she clearly mentioned that Canada will stand with Ukraine. Now, where do we stand with our Canada-India parliamentary, members? We don't see much of an activity, or maybe the diaspora doesn't know about this. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that one?
The things, the Indo people of MPs of Indian heritage has been quite active in all aspects of the federal government policies, not just limited to Canada and India. We had Canada-India Parliamentary Friendship Group, which was started by Deepak Oberoi. When 2015 I got elected, I was the chair of the Canada-India Parliamentary Friendship Group. After that, we had Ramesh Sangha for some time. Then Raj Saini was the chair. After these current elections, we never have had the new group yet, because we have hardly met, especially with this COVID, with the parliament going into hybrid mode. Almost 80 to 90% of the parliamentary friendship groups have not been activated after the last November election. I would like to touch base on what Pandaji and Neenaji said about Neenaji specifically mentioned about small reactors, and Pandaji mentioned about the lack of skilled workforce. Canada, we know that we are going into a knowledge-based economy. Our richness, our prosperity, our standard of living today in Canada basically came from the strengths we had in the natural resources: oil, gas, minerals, metals, forestry products. But 5, 10, 20 years down the road, the advantage we have with these natural resources will not contribute enough to maintain the same level of prosperity, because the global economy is going towards the knowledge-based economy. When I say knowledge-based economy, we're talking of artificial intelligence, genomics, robotics, energy storage, including batteries, Neenaji mentioned, or the crypto economy. For all that, as Pandeyji mentioned, we don't have the talent here. Today, you go to the smallest business, whether landscaping business or the biggest high technology business, the complaint we hear from all business owners is the lack of talent. And India has got good talent pool. They are coming in. In fact, if you go to some of the universities today and in the graduate level programs, it is mostly people of color from India, China, and other countries, which is good, but we need much more than that. We need this knowledge-based talent. India has got the knowledge-based talent. It is happening. We are getting a lot of students, but we need to be much more focused on the type of talent we get. And another thing that was briefly mentioned earlier was, you mentioned about the trade talks that are going on between Canada and India. This has been going on since I was the chair of Indo-Canada Ottawa Business Chamber. I'm talking about almost 12, 13, 14 years back. Since then, I've been hearing about the FIPA, I've been about the Canada-India trade deals, etc. It has been going on. Both countries, I know, have certain concerns on the parameters of the whole free trade agreement or the foreign investment production agreement that can take place. Instead of waiting for the entire government of things to be included in the agreement, we can focus on sectors. Like Neenaji mentioned, we can focus on things like the Kandu reactors. Or there are sectors between India and Canada, we can have sector-wise agreements where we can have much more trade cooperation. And as it was earlier mentioned, we are already one of the biggest investors in India. Whether Canadians know or not, most of the Canadians have invested directly in India through our pension funds. It is not just the pension funds. We have got the private companies, major companies like the Brookfield Asset Management, which is number 2 in terms of the investments they manage. They're also a very active player in India. Yeah, there are a lot of things that can go on. The Parliamentary Friendship Group will be brought back, hopefully, once the Parliament settles down. Like other 80 to 90% of the Parliamentary Friendship Group, it has not been revived yet.
Right. Yeah, thank you very much. You're right. Actually, so when the discussion started regarding free trade agreement, I clearly remember at that time, the bilateral trade was around 5 billion, and now it has moved in excess of 10 billion. The target was 15 billion at that time when all this started. But anyways, hopefully these things get sorted out. I'll come to you, Minister Neenaji. As MP Aryaji was also mentioning, and we all know that the headline was 400,000 immigrants have been brought into this country the past year, which is record. But another headline, which I'm sure many missed it, that majority of those immigrants are from Indian origin, and the number keeps on ever increasing. As a matter of fact, the permanent residents that were offered here is approximately around 52%. They were from Indian origin, which is a very huge number. Another thing is there are many things happening in India. And the narrative that is here, sometimes it's not a clear narrative or not a very positive narrative. So how do you take a position and do you discuss it with your federal counterparts or even with our premier here as well, that whatever developments are happening in India, and how do we integrate our Indian origin immigrants who are coming to Canada and build right narrative? I won't say a positive narrative, but I would say the right perspective has to be given. What's your take on this one?
Yeah, and I think you alluded to that, Yudhviji, is when we talk about the majority of immigrants that are coming here are coming from the Indian subcontinent. I think I will use that term because I think it's because of the ties that we do have, whether it's family, business, or otherwise. I'll talk a little bit about Ontario as a whole. The majority of those that are coming from India into Canada are also coming right into Ontario as well. So we are seeing the majority of them here and integrating them into society and integrating and making sure that you know, they're citizens of Canada, they become citizens of Canada, and as part of our economic diverse system that we have, I think is so important. So our settlement services, mostly they're federal settlement services, but just within our families, in our communities, in our cultural groups, and organizations like the Canada-India Foundation, where they provide that level of, let's bring the community together, so the newcomers with those of us that have been here for a long time can assimilate and work together. But I think it's what's really critical is we have requested from the federal government, we only have a small number of people that sort of we can choose to come to Ontario through the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, and we're requesting to double that amount, but it's still, it's just so minimal. So when we say in Ontario, I have about 300,000 jobs in Ontario that we can't fill right now. So that's a huge number of jobs, whether they're skilled or unskilled, that we desperately need people in Ontario, and immigration is a part of that. So, you know, many of them can come, whether it's as an immigrant or on a work permit, that we can utilize here in Ontario as skilled workers or unskilled workers. So we've requested the federal government to allow us to say, okay, we need XYZ type of employee in this particular field. Let us reach out, let us expedite that program. The process is still too slow to bring those people. So what we need today, if they're coming here a year from now, that may have changed. What we need a year from now may be completely different. So we do request our federal government, and Chandraji, if you can take this back, that we desperately need certain people in certain types of roles in certain areas. And like I said, some of them are very skilled and highly talented and highly educational jobs, but some of them are unskilled workers where we desperately need to fill that labor shortage that we have right now. And I know, you know, part of the jobs that we're not able to fill are people locally because of the pandemic. It's been a huge issue, of course, but you know, we still have room for so many more. But let's bring more people in. Let's open up the process and expedite it so much faster, so that we can bring those people we need today here right now.
Yeah, Nina, you addressed my first part of the question, but thank you for doing that. But there's another part to that question, that is how you as you mentioned earlier, that how do we bring these communities together? How do we integrate them here? Because there are many political developments in India which are happening, and because of that, the community, of course, they have the opinion is divided. But how do we keep them united? How do we make sure that, yes, we are focusing on Canada, we're making sure Canada-India ties are strengthened? That's another point.
Yeah, so I think it's critical to say, okay, we come to Canada, this is our home, and we need to be part and assimilate with Canadian society, whether it's within the Indian diaspora or as a collective Canadian. And I think when we think about India and we think of all the different states and all the different parts of India that we all come from, you know, whether we're first, second, third, or fourth generation, we bring here this amazing culture that India has, whether it's religion-based or culturally based in the different parts, the different foods. I think there's a way for us here. Think of organizations like Canada-Indian Foundation, Panorama India, who bring all of the organizations together to celebrate our festivals, for example, and then they utilize the different parts of India to do that. I think we need to make sure that we have an educational part of that, where we learn and we understand from each other, whether it's Canada and India, or whether it's different parts of India coming to Canada together. So I think it's important that from an economic perspective, how we understand that, but also from a cultural perspective. The Indian diaspora, what it's brought to Canada and Ontario is it's just been so significant. It's become part of Canadian society, and it's not just India alone, but so many different parts of the world. They've come here and they've really made their place. And when we talk to companies across the province and across Canada, they only have great things to say about those employees that they have from India. We're hardworking. We have a huge work ethic. And I think that means a lot to when they're looking to employ people and they see people come from India, they're very open and willing to hire those people. But one, we need to bring more. And two, we need to help them assimilate into Canadian society as a whole, but also work together within the Indian diaspora too. So I hope I've answered your question. I am going to apologize as well. I do need to get onto a caucus meeting. I am presenting, as you know, with the pandemic, we've closed down a number of businesses, and so there's a new small business grant that we're having an ethnic media roundtable this afternoon, Udviji, and I hope you'll join us on that. But I wanted to just take this opportunity to thank CIF and all of the other presenters, and you know, Stishji, Rdeshji, and all those listening in today, and to thank them for inviting me to be part of this important discussion. And I hope we continue these, talking about the Indian diaspora and what they do bring to Ontario and Canada. I think it's just so important, and look forward to more meetings as this as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Neena ji, definitely I will be joining you, and our Y Media team will be joining you this afternoon for that ethnic media discussion roundtable. I'll be joining you. And thank you so much for your time, Minister Neena Tangri ji, and Satish ji or Ritesh ji, anything you guys quickly want to add before we let the Minister go?
Thank you so very much, Minister Tangri, and for joining. I know that you have a very pressing schedule, but today is a very special occasion as we are celebrating Diaspora Day, and you are, one of our representative of diaspora. Your achievement we definitely take a pride in, and we're looking forward to. In our previous session, there was one message very loud and clear that we have to work on two-pronged approach. One, at the political level, where we have to create a stronger will, in articulating that why India is important and how India we have to work on. And the second, creating a better ecosystem for the business community. Small business, you represent small businesses, and Canada and India, their economy is actually dependent largely on the small and medium enterprises. So I think there is a natural fit where we can do a sector specific. I heard Chandraji talking about on sector specific engagement with India, and I would not agree, I couldn't agree more, because in the previous discussion, that was also one of the key focus points, that we need to engage India better, and want to thank you and for your work. Keep working hard for India. Anything you achieve, you make every Indian proud, and we are looking forward to more and more deepening this engagement with India. Thank you once again for joining today.
Thank you, Stacey. And just to add, I'm a very, as much as yes, I'm a Canadian and I'm an Ontario minister, I'm very, very proud Indian too. So I just wanted to add that, and I think it just allows us, all of us that are presenting here today, to work together and to make sure that we do more with India. And I think this, thank you again to CIF and everyone for all that you're doing to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
One more thing which I would want to add here today is it's a great platform and an opportunity to say that. And thank you, Neena ji, for all the good work you do for Canada and India. We're really proud of you as a community and diaspora. I think, when what we heard in the first panel, and even on the ground, when we go to ground in India, we see the opportunities there, and the kind of opportunities Canada and Canadian businesses are missing out on. I mean, I think we all collectively need to work on one thing, because we all realize the importance of India and the opportunity India is going to present to Canada in next so many years ahead. But the negativity which we see in social media, and I would not say media in general, but certain sections of media, I mean, they actually thrive on negativity about India. So I think it's our collective responsibility to bridge that gap and communicate more prominently all the positive aspects, all the opportunities and the good which is actually there in deepening ties between Canada and India. That will actually help a lot of common people who have come here to make their life and living, who do not have time to engage themselves deeper, like, we have the opportunity or we spare the time, but they then go by that negativity, and that is a big miss for India and Canada. I think today, it's a great forum and a great opportunity for all of us to strengthen that resolve that we collectively need to bring more positivity about the importance of Canada-India relationship, and in some way address that negativity, which I don't know where it comes from, but that is a bigger hindrance in stronger Canada-India relationship, and that is also a hindrance in realizing the true potential between the two great countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'll just add on that. Yudviji, you can probably speak to this better than all of us, as being someone in the media. The portrayal of all of our countries as that is in the media, it does make a difference. So if we see from the Indian media only negativity, it makes a difference when the lawmakers of Canada are looking, and business people are looking to do trade with India as well. So I think it's the more we can, just there are negative things that are happening throughout the world, but I think that we can enhance and perhaps showcase some more positive measures that other countries, India, Canada, that we're doing to help. I think globally, look how we've worked together throughout the pandemic. I think that, there's a lot of positive stories. India was in dire need of ventilators. We had stockpiled ventilators here in Ontario. We quickly shipped them, and then CIF together with other organizations very quickly pulled together, raised funds, and got those ventilators and oxygenators and you name it, got them into India extremely fast. These are really great positive stories, I think, that we need to also highlight as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Riteshji, for bringing up this point. Actually, we were discussing this point, but I think you addressed the elephant in the room very directly. And Minister, thank you so much for addressing that as well. I know we let you go. You got to attend a very important meeting. But before I let you go, one quick point that I want to make, I'll just give you a quick, without any political connotation. I get this question very often, being in media, that is India a democratic country at all? It's dictatorship and all these questions, because on live radios and on live TV shows, we have to address this, But I think as CIF, they say that, democracy is working together. So my answer to this question is that just imagine for a moment if India wasn't a democratic country, democracy wouldn't be existing. You have China, you have Russia, then most of the countries in the Middle East, and these are majority population countries which do not have democracy at all. So imagine for a minute if India didn't have democracy. So we should appreciate that, and we cannot just make a statement and there's dictatorship in India, and we must appreciate, and especially when we're celebrating Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, especially when we're celebrating this. But coming from you, I know we do our part in the media, but coming from you, Minister, makes a lot of difference. Your final comments, and we'll let you go. Thank you so much, Minister. And at this point, I like to once again carrying on this discussion, Minister Pandey, if I'll take the discussion forward with you in Alberta. I know you talked earlier as well regarding freedom of speech, and how do we make sure, as Riteshji was mentioning, Satishji was also mentioning, the narrative about India that needs to be clear. I won't say we need to build a positive or a negative. That needs to be a lot more clearer. What is your take on this one?
Well, I'll be very blunt. We call Canada home, so we had to follow the rule of law. We had to follow the laws of the land. We had to live Canadian values. First of all, why did we move to Canada? We wanted to have a better future for our, we want to raise the family here, and we want to have a better future for our children and future generations. So how do we do that? And at the same time, while contributing to make Canada a better place, how do we actually help our motherland and celebrate our culture here without compromising Canadian values of mutual respect? If you want to talk about minority rights and everything, it applies everywhere. If if you talk about dictatorship, democracy, you know, a country as big as India with 1.4 billion people, with so much diverse culture and opinions, diverse economy, it's not easy to govern a country like that, as big as that. Whoever is the prime minister, the role of the prime minister is to unite all of India. And the same thing in Canada. The role of the prime minister here should unite all 10 provinces, 3 territories, and move them forward, rather than playing, vote bank politics. So it's the same people who talk about vote bank politics in India, they conveniently ignore what happens here. So we had to raise above that and conduct ourselves in a way we get that respect from mainstream Canadians and mainstream media. Then only, you know, you can say, well, you know, there is some discrimination, racism, this, that. I don't see that. I'm not saying it is not there, but what am I doing on my part to earn that? I mean, to integrate myself to the mainstream society here and gain their respect. So that's more important for me. Others may differ with me. That's fine. You know, we are in a democracy. Everyone is entitled with their freedom of speech and opinion. But that also brings the responsibility. You know, you can't just, you know, here you can shoot your mouth and you know, put social media comments and hate and spread hate, and then you expect suddenly everyone else should love you. You know, what goes around comes around. People need to know that. So but as leaders and as community organizations like CAF, I appreciate their efforts in you know, uniting people, whether it is celebrating Pravasi Bharatiya Divas or highlighting different cultures, highlighting successful Indo-Canadians from all regions of India, and also celebrating yoga or traditional medicine or culture, Bhangra, anything, you know. So it's important. So we had to be conscious, and we should think about whether our actions will unite people or divide people. That's more important for me. And as I said, I always go back. We all came here for a better opportunity, better standard of living. So which means we need strong economy to perform. I agree with Chandraji on his point about diversification. That's why Alberta is, while we are building on our strength, we are trying to diversify our economy. So all Albertans and Canadians, including Indo-Canadians, have a better opportunity. But at the same time, I slightly differ with him respectfully, in my humble opinion. You know, we had to take advantage of the market, you know. So when there is a demand for a product, you had to sell it. You can't leave the product in the ground when there is a demand for it. Unfortunately or fortunately, I was graduated from Dhirubhai Ambani School of Economy. So he used to tell us, penny saved is penny earned. So today there is a demand for Canada's energy products. So we should take advantage of them before it becomes redundant. As Mr. Arya said, if there is no demand for our products in 20 years, that's a different story. But so in the next 20 years, when there is still demand for our product, we should take advantage of it, you know, market it, and use it for the benefit of all Canadians. And I urge all Indo-Canadians, not only elected officials, but all community people, to talk about that opportunity to make life better for Canadians. So, and in that process, it helps Indo-Canadians as well. So I really strongly feel about it. I don't want to do traditional politics. People will say, oh, that's how we did it in India. Yeah, leave it behind. You came here for a better opportunity. So live as Canadian, embrace Canadian values. If you want to help Indo-Canadians and India, do it, but do it in a respectful way. That will bring up everyone. So our job as Indo-Canadian leaders is unite people and bring up everyone. You have to lift up our fellow Canadians too. So that's where I leave. I think we are running out of time here, but I'll wait for Mr. Arya to respond.
Yeah, Mr. Arya, if you could respond to that, and especially talking about identity politics. I think the federal government has a very important role in how we unite people, how we integrate them, and especially the newcomers as well. If you could address this specific point regarding identity politics, this has been discussed a lot on our TV talk shows, on our radio talk shows. Please go ahead.
Okay, Pandeyji, there's a small confusion. I agree with you that the national advantages we have in Canada, we should continue to use as long as it is economically feasible for the betterment of our country, because we can't say that something that contributes to our prosperity, to our standard of living, let's give it up. That is never a commercially viable suggestion. So we need to continue to use the economic advantage we have for as long as it is possible. Talking of identity politics, as Neenaji mentioned, Pandeyji has mentioned, etc. When I look, when I act, when I think, when I propose as a member of parliament, I think only from one angle, from the future of Canadians, for the future of our children and grandchildren in Canada. That is at the forefront. So I have been at the receiving end of the identity politics or one of these diaspora politics because of my firm stand that as Canadians, we have to focus on what is important to Canada and Canadians, but not interfere in the domestic affairs of any other country, whether in Asia, Europe, South America, or wherever it is. So, once we obviously, as Pandeyji mentioned, there are so many Bharats in India, and India is a continent. So there will always be different culture, different political thoughts, political beliefs, and different issues. However, one thing that is common for all across India, which is relevant to Canada, is the economic and trade relations. If Canadians, we understand, most of us who came, we are immigrants. As immigrants, our knowledge of trade, our knowledge of investment, our knowledge of business is much above that of an average Canadian. And trade contributes to close to 70% of Canadian GDP. And the potential for trade between Canada and India is so much, if we can rally Canadians around for the economic potential that is there, two-way economic potential for Canada and India in terms of the economic relations, in terms of the trade relations, that will be a good way to start. India needs investments from Canada, which we are already doing. India has the talent that we need for the forthcoming knowledge-based economy, which we need. So if we can focus more on these economic and trade relations. You mentioned about the social media, the comments in the social media, etc. Listen, I am a politician. I've been elected for more than 6 years. I live and breathe public life every single day. But trust me, social media is as important as the importance we give to it. So I've not been affected by social media because I read a lot, but I know what to read and what not to read. There was a big social media campaign against me. It didn't affect me at the end of the day. At the end of the day, the people of Nityan elected me with the same big margin as in 2019, though there was this diaspora politics mounting a social media and physical campaign against me. It did not make a difference. So let's not get bogged down by the social media. It's very simple. Somebody sitting in the basement can make comment on anything in the world. But we as policymakers, we as community influence, Canada India Foundation as a great organization that can create good bridges between Canada and India. Let's focus on the things that is positive, that what can we take up to improve the economic and trade relations between these two great nations.
All right, my last question would be, I wish we had more time, but I think we're almost out of time. We just have 3-4 minutes left, and before our final speakers, let's talk about youth. I want both of you to address the same question, starting with you, Minister. The second generation of Indian origin, it's very important we inspire them, we encourage them to get connected with innovation, science, technology, rather than just discussing about identity politics. And also I want you to touch upon, we're bringing many international students here. What are we doing to integrate them within the Canadian society? Minister Panda, we start with you.
Well, that's a very good point. So when I go to rural communities where there are smaller colleges and all, I still see our students come from, agricultural families, for example, in Punjab or Gujarat or somewhere. So I encourage them to understand where the opportunities are and what kind of training they are getting in their colleges, and I ask them to try to, in hockey they always say, look out, it's not where the puck is now, but where it's going to be. So I always ask them, hey, look forward and focus on it. And which sectors? I mean, we're all talking about clean tech, digital economy, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things, machine learning. So those are some of the opportunities. But at the same time, we also have traditional agricultural sector, transportation. For example, we get a lot of skilled workers in that field, because to get the supply chain moving, you need experienced drivers and operators. So all those things, and in healthcare right now after pandemic, we all realized how important are healthcare workers, whether it is a trained nurse from Kerala or some of the traditional medicine we practice like Ayurveda. If there are opportunities to get the mainstream Canadians familiarized with that traditional medicine, because they heard about Chinese traditional medicine. So we can look at that. So there are opportunities everywhere, and I'm asking our post-secondaries to train them in a way that they actually contribute and fill the shortages in our skilled workforce. At the same time, it's also up to the students coming here. And I'm with some of these guys, I may not be popular because I'm always blunt, particularly students coming from South India. I tell them, if you're just coming to Canada because you couldn't get into US, go back to India. You have to love Canada. You have to be here. You have to embrace it, because Canadians are much more polite, and here you get more opportunity. I tell them, like myself, a new Canadian can run for office and contribute. So that is the thing. They also had to develop that attachment to the land here. We're so blessed to call home. So those are a few things. But as Government of Alberta, we are always looking for for opportunities to integrate them so they can work in their full potential. Because these guys, they're very, very bright students. I see them in the post-secondary institutions, in doing postdoctoral things. So India is today exporting CEOs all over the world. Now, I mean, every major CEO has some link to India. So these are all bright students. We want to retain them. We want to provide them better economic opportunities so they can contribute. And also Canada is aging population. So unlike India has 800 million young people, but Canada very soon we need this young workforce to be gainfully working, so we can the older generation can still draw their pensions. It is still available. So that's why I for one is actively recruiting students at our post-secondary. I had to compete with Ontario and BC, but we couldn't travel. But when we travel, I'm going to go and encourage Indian students to look Canada as Canada, not as a substitute to US. I feel very strongly about it. Yeah, that's what we need to do.
Yeah, we're almost all out of time. MP Aryaji, if you could also quickly comment.
Thank you so much. The youth are very important because we need skills, we need manpower. Let's take back. It's not just the skilled manpower we need. It's not just the STEM manpower we need. We need people for all different things, right from the landscaping job to the truck drivers to the engineers at the top end. Just take a step back and see where were we about 5 years back and where we are now. We have opened up and we have made it very, very easy for the international students to apply. And the approval process, we have shortened for selected 12 countries, including in India, so that the approval they get very quickly. And as and when the students come in India, from day one, we have made them give them opportunity to participate in the Canadian economic system by giving them 20 hours working permit. That will also help them not just learn in the academic sphere, but also understand the Canadian society, understand the Canadian workplace, and also benefit from the also gain the economic benefits of that. So that will only increase. We have seen the increasing number of students from all across the world, and especially from India. And as Pandiji said, even now when I go to India, I see the first preference for most of Indo-Indian students is to go to the US. So we also have a role to educate how good it is for the Indian students to come to Canada and give them with concrete examples how people are also moving from the US to Canada because of the socio-economic and the Canadian society here. I have to go in another 2 minutes because I've got another Zoom event starting exactly at 1. So I will close my remarks here. Thank you so much for inviting me and making a part of this great event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, MP Chandra Arya-ji. Thank you so much, Minister Prasad Pandya-ji, and thank you so much, Minister Neena Tangri-ji. At this point, I'll quickly pass on the mic, and in my concluding statement, I'll just say this, that yes, we should all take pride in India, not just when India wins the World Cup or the IFA awards, but I think there is always a reason to take pride in our Indian origin. As much as we are Canadians, we love Canada, but we certainly would be proud Indo-Canadians. Thank you very much, CIF. Thank you so much for the Government of India. And thank you so much, Apurva Srivastava ji, in particular. Ji, Satish ji, over to you.
Good to see you, Chandra ji. See you soon in Ottawa somewhere. And Edward, good to meet you. I see Apurva ji, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
And also, yeah, your husband at Ottawa as a Deputy High Commissioner, he's doing a fantastic job too. Thank you all. And I would like to thank Ritesh ji and Satish ji for inviting us to this gathering. Thank you so much for celebrating India and Indianness and Bharat. Thank you.
Thank you. India, one of the oldest civilization on this earth, who has given so much wisdom to the world, yoga, Ayurveda, our programs in the science. If you go back, 400 years back, India's contribution to world GDP was almost over, close to 2 decades, to 20%. 20 to 23%, and which we are predicting again now by 2050 that we will have over 15% contribution towards the world GDP. India, a house to, one of the youngest demographic, over, I would say 65% of the population is under the age of 35. India, the economic opportunities which are there, I think with over close to 20 plus elected officials of Indian origin, we need to unite them in their thought process, in creating a narrative which is beneficial for all the Canadians. It's good for the economic prosperity, as we talked about the debt reduction and economic recovery, because post-COVID, we have piled up a huge debt. And I think we have to play it right. We have to play it fast. We have to play it very aggressively, that our engagement with India kind of grows at a faster pace, and which brings economic prosperity for all. And I want to thank Yudhvir for leading such a very thought-provoking discussion. And thank you, Minister Prasad Pandaji, our Minister Neena Tangri, and MP Chandra Aryaji for your insightful remarks. We are very proud of, as a community, we are very proud of your achievement, your accomplishment, and we are wishing you a great success. And we always take our pride in your good work, and keep up the good work, and keep India on your center of your heart. And let's all work together that how we can deepen our engagement and ties with India. And with that note, I would like to request our Consul General Apurva Srivastava ji, and who is the great inspiration for all of us at Canada India Foundation, a great supporter, and she with her very down to earth, humble approach to every activity she tries to do, but she brings a great thought leadership, and always there to support any and every endeavor CIF undertakes. And with over 2 decades of our excellence experience working with the Ministry of External Affairs and in different embassies, she's a great ambassador of India, a great champion, and we are very proud to call her a friend. And thank you, Apurva ji, for supporting our this initiative and this event today. And it's a privilege and an honor to invite you to say a few words for the concluding remark. Over to you.
Thank you, Satish ji. Namaskar. First of all, I would like to congratulate Canada India Foundation for putting together such a wonderful event, and what an insightful, delightful, and wonderful discussion that I heard during the course of the morning. Of course, for this particular session, thank you, Chandra ji, Prasad Panda ji, and Neena ji for this wonderful insights on various aspects of India-Canada relations, and of course, Yudhvir for, as always, moderating it so well. As today we heard a lot about, partnership, collaboration over competition, role of government, but the most we heard is how to leverage the strong people-to-people ties between India and Canada, the 1.8 million strong, vibrant Indo-Canadian community, which is doing so well, integrated so well in all walks of Canadian life, from politics to business, from academia to media, from scientific research to art and culture. We of course heard that there are 19 members of Parliament of Indian origin in the Canadian Parliament, I think highest anywhere in the world, 3 federal ministers, many provincial legislatures and municipal bodies. We heard many of them. We heard Minister Anand today. We heard Prasad Pandaji, Chandra Aryaji, Neena ji today. But there are many others with their high-ranking civil servants. We heard some of them from today itself. Successful businessmen, academicians. We have 2 vice chancellors of Indian origin in 2 Canadian universities, Dalhousie University and of course the Waterloo Universities, leading artists, many Pravasi Bharatiya awards, awardees here. Many of them are the CIF members. So and the diaspora is from all across. It represents all across India. There are 6 Gujaratis, Tamil, Telugu, Marathis, Bengalis, and many different communities from all across India. And it gives a vibrant Indian kaleidoscope, which adds to the robust multicultural Canadian society. And the most important thing, the most heartwarming feature that I have realized in last 2 years here, that when it comes to service and philanthropy to the society, so many individuals and organizations of Indian heritage have and are contributing to the welfare of the Canadian society and to supporting relief efforts in India. And we had really witnessed this during the recent pandemic. And this must be one of the most heartwarming things which I have seen in recent years. Of course, there's when we talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat, there's a strong role of diaspora in realization of this Atmanirbhar Bharat. The objective of Atmanirbhar Bharat is to build greater national capacity so that we can make a stronger contribution globally. Even otherwise, this is a very laudable goal, but the experience of COVID pandemic has driven home the need for more trusted, resilient, reliable, and redundant supply chains. And involving the diaspora in that endeavor is very natural. You always have been enthusiastic contributors to nation building. As high achievers in your own societies, you have bring resources, technology, best practices, innovation to the task. Therefore, while you have been doing so much for your motherland, you have been spreading, you have been in forefront in passing Indian traditions, cultures, values, morals, and moves from one generation to another. You have been bridges, mediators, facilitators, lobby and advocacy groups for taking primacy of India's interest in economic and soft power projection. But we would really like you to do more in helping us in the three T's, as we call it: trade, technology, and tourism. We would like more of your support, more support to get Canadian technologies back in India, to promote tourism, to promote the trade, bilateral trade. As we know, the bilateral trade is close to $10 billion, which is nothing. With the strong potential, we can all come together and do that. So there's a lot of things you can do by advocacy, and you have been doing so great already on that account. So with these words, I think I'll conclude here, and once again wish very happy Pravasi Divas to all of you. This week is special. We are celebrating Hindi Divas, Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, Vivekananda Jayanti, so a lot of celebrations going on. And thank you once again, Canada India Foundation, for all the support. Thank you, Prasad Pandaji. Thank you, Chandra Arya ji, and thank you, Yudhvir, for moderating the session so well. And thank you once again, CIF, Satish and Ritesh in particular. Thank you for being such a great friend of India and a great personal friend. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Apurva ji. So we formally come to the end of a wonderful day that celebrates the spirit of millions of people of Indian origin spread all over the world. Keeping CIF's vision, it was an easy decision to choose the theme of Canada-India partnership, opportunities and challenges to peg our deliberations today. We were fortunate to get on board some of the heavy hitters whose ideas and initiatives will help shape this bilateral relationship. First of all, I would like to say thank you to 3 speakers who set the tone for the rest of the morning with their observations. Our thanks to Honorable Minister Anita Anand, His Excellency Ajay Bisaria ji, and our constant source of encouragement, India's Consul General in Toronto, Ms. Apurva Srivastava ji. As you just heard from the participants at the first session, the need for a comprehensive partnership between Canada and India is no longer in dispute. It is only a question of when and how soon. We had the benefit of listening to Canada's Chief Trade Commissioner, Sarah Wilshaw, who shared with us her unique perspectives on the subject. Thank you, Ms. Wilshaw, for joining us today. Gary Camerford has been a well-known proponent on behalf of closer Canada and India economic cooperation for decades. As we learned today, his enthusiasm has only increased. Thank you, Gary. On the panel were also 2 of the rising stars from India, Vijendra Gairola, whom I have personally known for many years, and Ajay Ramasubramaniam, who enriched our deliberations by sharing their Indian perspectives. It was very useful. And of course, many thanks to the man who guided the session so expertly, Mr. Stewart Beck, a veteran diplomat and a staunch supporter of the Canada-India initiatives. There is no doubt that there is a critical role for this close to 2 million and growing by the year Indo-Canadians in deepening our mutual understanding and helping achieve our objectives. The panelists at the second session know this all too well. As people's representatives, they have earned the trust and respect of Canadians, not only Indo-Canadians, and we are encouraged to hear that they too believe that a closer Canada-India relationship will benefit us both equally. Let me, on behalf of CIF, record our sincere thanks to Honorable Prasad Panda ji, Neena Tangri ji, and Chandra Arya ji. Though all of them represent different political parties, there seems to be consensus as far as the Canada-India engagement is concerned. And thanks to Yudhvir Jaswal, CEO of the popular media platform Y Media, for moderating this excellent discussion. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our chair, Satish Thakkarji, for his vision and leadership, other executive board members and board of governors for their constant support, and Pawan Chankotra for executing our collective vision. That concludes the CIF celebration of Pravasi Bharatiya Divas 2022 Toronto. Our sincere thanks to all of you who took the time out to join us this morning. Hope to see you at next year's celebration, bigger, brighter, and free from pandemic. Namaste.
Namaskar. Thank you.